Stocks closed lower on Wall Street as Treasury yields hit their highest level since November on rising geopolitical tensions. The outlook on the Fed's rate cut timeline also remains uncertain. Asian markets opened lower on a weak handover from Wall Street. The GIFT Nifty is also suggesting a weak opening for the Indian markets. Crude prices rise to a 5-month high, with Brent hitting nearly $89 a barrel as tensions escalate between Israel and Iran. Gold's record run continues as safe haven buying propels the yellow metal above the $2,300 an ounce mark. The two-day RBI Monetary Policy Committee meet begins today. The CNBC TV18 Citizen MPC sees no change in rates or stance in Friday's policy, but members expect the RBI may up the FY25 growth forecast. Telecom service provider Bharti Hexacom's IPO opens for subscription today. The first IPO from the Bharti Group after the listing of Bharti Infratel in 2012 is a pure offer for sale, where the government-owned TCIL will sell stake worth over 4,000 crore rupees. And a powerful earthquake measuring 7.2 on the Richter scale rocks Taiwan, collapsing buildings and creating a tsunami. Japan too issues a tsunami warning for Okinawa. Good morning, and you're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18 in the Mumbai News Center. I am Hormus Fatakia, and we are setting you up for midweek trading this morning. But let's take a look at how the Asian markets have opened. It's a weak start to trading across the Asia Pacific as well after a weak handover from Wall Street. And you can see that the Taiwanese index is down 0.8%. Seng is also down 0.2%. The Asian markets not doing very well as of now after the weak handover there from Wall Street. The GIFT Nifty is also indicating a gap down opening for the Indian markets. There you can see the implied open pointing to a 125-point downtick at the start of trade for our own markets. But the big news coming in from Asia early this morning, and that is a 7.7 magnitude earthquake that struck in Taiwan in what was the strongest earthquake in the country for 25 years. A tsunami warning was also issued across islands in southern Japan after the earthquake hit Taiwan early this morning. Local television stations reported that the quake's epicenter was just off the eastern coast of the Hualien County. More than 10,000 people are currently without power, and Taiwan Semiconductor, or the world's largest semiconductor manufacturing company, has said that it has partially evacuated its factory floor. The Philippines has also issued a warning to its citizens living around the coastal areas, asking them to relocate to a higher ground. And shifting focus now from this big news onto Wall Street, and as we mentioned, it was a weak day for trading there as the benchmark indices ended lower on Tuesday, marking the worst day for the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones in almost a month. The Dow Jones fell for the second day, losing nearly 400 points, while the S&P 500 there slid 0.7%. The tech-heavy Nasdaq also fell almost 1%. The 10-year Treasury yield, though, continues to surge as bets on the interest rates cut by the Federal Reserve cooled off further. CNBC's Steve Kovac gets us a wrap on all the action on Wall Street.
U.S. markets were down across the major indexes Tuesday as bond yields rose and investors continued to question whether the Fed will make its first rate cut in June. The Dow was down 397 points, the S&P 500 fell 38 points, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq was down 156 points. Tesla shares fell sharply today after the electric vehicle maker reported first quarter deliveries that were almost 9% lower than the same quarter last year and well below analyst expectations for the quarter. Tesla faced a number of challenges in the quarter, including supply chain disruptions caused by Houthi attacks on shippers in the Red Sea, pauses at its German factory outside Berlin, and competition from Chinese EV makers. And General Electric completed its breakup into 3 companies today, marking the end of an era for the industrial conglomerate Pioneer. The former parent company of NBC Universal began trading on the New York Stock Exchange as 2 separate entities, aerospace and energy. The move comes more than a year after its healthcare business began trading on the Nasdaq. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you, Mumbai.
And let's also listen into some important opinion coming in from Liz Young of Sophie on the market setup in the U.S.
10 basis point move in treasuries on very little news, maybe some stronger PMI data, but there wasn't really anything that was convincingly concerning. So I think what's happening is we're looking at, obviously, in the last 3 months, we've had this huge move in Fed funds futures, the market trying to get comfortable with the idea that cuts continue to get pushed further and further out into the future. And now even floating by some commentators, the idea that what if we don't have any cuts this year? So digesting that at this level of valuations, plus coming off of a really strong rally that had broadened out and a lot of sectors started participating. And now looking at some of the signals that we're getting from things like gold and some of this news on the periphery about currency volatility around the globe, I think is giving investors some jitters at a time when the rally has paused.
Let's get to the final update in our global market wrap this morning. The European equities fell across the board on Tuesday, with the French CAC shedding about 76 points, the British FTSE losing about 18 points, while the German DAX slipped over 1%. The pan-European stock 600 closed lower as well, slipping to a one-week low, weighed down by healthcare stocks. Meanwhile, an important macro cue from the region was that the inflation in Germany eased to the lowest level since June of 2021, helped by a drop in energy prices. Inflation fell to 2.3% from 2.7% in February, while core inflation also eased to 3.3% from 3.4% in February. And let's also take a look at how all of this global market action will impact our own markets this morning. Remember, this is midweek trading. We also have the Nifty Bank expiry today and as our power prep segment as well. Let's take a look at how the markets fared yesterday. There's a bit of a consolidation in the benchmark indices, both the Nifty and the Nifty Bank ending absolutely flat. There was no movement whatsoever. But the thing to note is that the pause comes after a very swift recovery that the indices made from that low that they made on the 20th of March. So if you take a look at that, the Nifty is up 3.5%, as is the Nifty Bank. So a bit of pause coming in there after this 3.5% recovery that we have seen in the benchmark indices. What has recovered even more though is the broader markets, and the mid cap and the small cap indices continue to outperform even after the Nifty and the Nifty Bank were consolidating yesterday. The mid cap index is up 9% from the lows of the 20th of March. The small cap index is also up 7%. So we'll have to watch out for that. And since the cues this morning are not very positive, we'll see if there is a bit of a pullback in the broader markets as well. Now, if you take a look at the sectors that did well, the realty index continues to outperform. It was up for the 8th day yesterday. The metals index also did well. So we'll see if there is a bit of a pullback there as well in both of these sectors. And the handover, as we mentioned, from Wall Street was a weak one. The benchmark indices ended lower for the second day running. The 10-year Treasury yields reached the highest level since November, and the crude price is also at a 5-month high. So global cues also not very supportive. The Asian markets also are pointing to a weak opening, and the GIFT Nifty is pointing to a gap down start for our own markets, 125 points lower as we speak. So a bit of a pullback anticipated, but the index might find some support at lower levels. But now over to Vamakshi, who will list out the stocks to watch out for in today's trading session. Morning, Vamakshi. I'm sure it's a long list.
Well, absolutely, Hormaz. Let me first start off with GSW Energy. We have the company passing an enabling resolution to raise almost 5,000 crores. They've also launched a QIP, and the floor price has been set at 510.09 per share. Apart from that, keep an eye out on Ultratech Cement. They will be commissioning 2 new greenfield capacities totaling 5.4 metric tons per annum in Chhattisgarh and Tamil Nadu. Additionally, the company will also invest 32,400 crores towards ongoing capex over the next 3 years. Keep an eye out on HCL Tech. Its arm has divested nearly 49% equity stake in its JV with US-based State Street International Holdings. The arm has received proceeds of almost $172.5 million. Ramco Cements has commissioned line 2 at Odisha's grinding unit with effect from 31st of March, and with this the aggregate capacity has now increased to 1.8 metric tons per annum. Shriram Properties arm has received tax penalty order of almost 450 odd crores for assessment year 2018-2019. Sunteck Realty has leased a commercial building in Mumbai and will be receiving approximately 2,000 crores in annuity income over the next 29 years. Zee Entertainment also on our radar. MD and CEO Puneet Goenka will be implementing a voluntary 20% reduction on his personal remuneration, and this step has been taken in line with larger strategic and frugal approach that has been implemented across the organization. Anupam Rasayan has signed an LOI with Japanese multinational worth almost 743 crores. And MOIL is in focus on the back of an operational update. They have reported the best ever showing in a fiscal in FY24. Production is up 35%, sale is up nearly 30%. And lastly, let's also focus in on NALCO. They too have reported a record year. Aluminium, highest ever metal sale, and alumina refinery has produced nearly 21.24 lakh metric tons of alumina hydrate.
Long list indeed. Thanks a lot, Vamakshi, for joining in. And lastly, on the FNO update, then Mangalam is joining in. Morning, Mangalam. Respecting the levels, is the Nifty both on the upside and the downside?
Respecting the levels indeed, and the interesting part will be today the level at the lower end would be tested. The GIFT Nifty indicating a 125-point downtick, bang in the line of support zone for the market as well. The question is whether we see recovery from there or not. But yesterday, the Nifty and the mid-cap index were two different beasts. If you look at it, the Nifty was marginally in the red, though saw a recovery in the last hour of trade. The mid-cap index did a lot better, ended at the high point, the gain of almost 1%. And the Nifty Bank also outperformed in yesterday's trading session, outperformed the frontline indices. And that was led largely by HDFC Bank, which reported a gain of almost 0.2%. And that's a stock that one will be watching out for, the highest open interest, or rather the highest, weighted stocks on the Nifty Financial Services, the Nifty Bank, and now the street is expecting an update as well coming in on the quarter for them. The FIs, they continue to sell in the cash market on the second day of this fiscal as well, 1,600 crore. But this time around, they made up for that by purchasing about 700 crores in index futures. So if you look at the long positions that they added, close to around 5,000 contracts, covered about 900 short contracts as well. So a net benefit of almost 6,000 contracts that led the long exposure slightly higher from 45% to 47%. Though again, the range that we're speaking about, 22,500 call on the way up, is seeing a fair amount of writing for a premium of 65 rupees. On the way down is the 22,400 put, which is equally active as well. For those who are writing these options, they are playing for a Nifty range of 22,350 at the lower end to 22,550 at the upper end. Of course, the upper end taken out today, it is the lower end which will see an important move today as well. Nifty Bank is the one which is in focus, 48,000 call and 47,000 put, most active ahead of options expiry. Metal stocks saw a lot of longs yesterday. Let's see whether that gets unwound overnight because of the weakness in Wall Street. And Hindustan Copper, as we pointed out yesterday, has now entered FNO ban.
Plenty of cues to track. Thanks a lot, Mangalam, for joining in. 22,350, the level to watch out for on the downside for the Nifty. Time for a short break here on Power Breakfast. When we return, telecom service provider Bharti Hexacom's IPO opens for subscription, and we'll tell you all that you need to know about this offering on the other side. Welcome back to Power Breakfast, and now the market is awaiting its next big cue, which is the first RBI policy of FY25 that is due to be announced on Friday, the 5th of April. The two-day review meeting ahead of the policy decision will begin today. Most economists expect the Reserve Bank to hold rates steady this time. Our colleague Latha Venkatesh asked the CNBC TV 18 Citizens MPC about what they were expecting from the RBI this time around. Listen into what they had to say.
Let's start the vote. The first question, obviously, what will the Reserve Bank do to interest rates? Well, let me start with you, Sonal. What's your vote?
Pause.
Pause. Okay. Samiran, your vote?
Yeah, pause on rates.
Okay. Shaumyo, your vote?
Pause. Pause.
Okay. Sajid?
Pause.
Dr. Sen, well, it's a pause all over. Your vote, Chairman?
Pause. We are all on the same
That's
page.
unanimous. That's unanimous. Let's see if there's any change in stance. Sonal?
Retain the stance.
Okay. Shamiran?
No change in stance for now.
Okay. Shaumyo?
No change in stance.
Okay. Sajid?
No change in stance.
Okay. Well, Dr. Sen, you think it's time to change the stance?
I would move to neutral.
Okay.
We do not know what's happening.
All right. Okay. Well, let me ask the more relevant question, perhaps. When do you guys expect the first rate cut? Sonal?
We expect August onwards.
Okay. Samiran?
We think it's starting October.
All right. Shaumya?
October.
Okay. Third quarter would be again October, December. Okay. Sajid?
Between August and October.
Okay. Well, Dr. Sen, what's your vote, sir?
After August.
Okay. Okay, then it looks like at least for the current and the next policy, we don't see too much of a change. Status quo is, but plenty on liquidity that we will hear out from the Reserve Bank, especially with the bond inclusion. Thank you very much, members of the Citizens Monetary Policy Committee.
Consensus on the street, there are pause in interest rates from RBI. We'll watch out on Friday. But let's now shift focus to the primary markets, and telecom service provider Bharti Hexacom's IPO will open for subscription today. The issue is an offer for sale where the government's entity TCIL will sell a part of its stake in the company. Rima is here to tell us more. Morning, Rima. The first IPO of FY25.
Oh, absolutely. The first IPO of FY25 and also the first IPO from the Airtel Group in over a decade. The last one was Bharti Infratel, which is now known as Industars, and that happened way back in 2012. Now, first, let's get you the IPO details. The IPO dates are 3rd to 5th of March. The price band has been set at 542 to 570, giving it an implied market capitalization of 28,500 crore at the upper end. Now, this is a pure offer for sale, which means no money goes into the company. Who is the selling entity? Well, the selling entity is a government of India. It's called TCIL, Telecom Consultants India Limited, and they're planning to sell about half of their stake, 7.5 crore shares, and they will raise about 4,200 crore. Now, Bharti Airtel has about a 70% stake in Bharti Hexacom, but they are not planning to offload any stake. Now, quick word about the company. What does it do? Well, it's a telecom company. It provides mobile services. But unlike a Bharti, a Jio, or Vodafone Idea, which are pan-India players, Bharti Hexacom operates only in 2 circles. One of them is Rajasthan and the other one is Northeast. It's a market leader in the Northeast circle with a revenue market share of close to about 52.7%. In Rajasthan, it's the second biggest player in terms of market share, and the market share stands at about 40%. Now, the company, a bit of a history. The company was originally incorporated in 1995 as Hexacom India. Then in 2004, its name was changed to Bharti Hexacom when Airtel acquired a majority stake in the company. And now this company pays a management fee to Airtel for common marketing expenses, administration, personnel, and this roughly amounts to about 1.7% of the company's revenue. Now, getting to the financials, the company's top line has grown at about 12.65%, and currently, as of last year, its top line stood at 6,570 crore. But the big positive is the margin improvement. Look at the margin trajectory of the company. It's practically doubled. Its margins now stand at about 49.35%, but in FY21, its margin stood at 24.7%. So the margins of the company have practically doubled. The bottom line, though, has remained fairly volatile due to some exceptional items. But getting back to the margin performance, the key driver has been the price hike, which led to ARPUs increasing. What are ARPUs? Average revenue per user. So this has been the ARPU trajectory of the company, 135 rupees in FY21 to 155 rupees in FY22 to 185 rupees in FY23, and in 9 months FY24, its ARPUs are almost touching that 200 rupee mark. So it's a fairly big IPO. But the factors that one needs to keep in mind is that it operates only in 2 circles, and therefore its customer base has not been growing at a fast clip. So the growth is coming in from upgrading their existing 2G subscribers to 4G and price hikes. Now, getting to the valuations, as of FY23, its EPS was close to about 11 rupees, which means you get a trailing PE of about 51 times. So it's cheaper than its much larger peer Bharti Airtel. But as I said, it's, look at the revenue of the company, right? Bharti Airtel consolidated revenue is closer to about 1.4 lakh crore, while for Bharti Hexacom, its top line is about 6,580 crore. Back to you.
A big IPO indeed, the first one of FY25. Thanks a lot, Rima, for joining in. We'll keep an eye out on all of that. Let's slip into a break now. Up next, we get you all the cues from the commodities market. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Moving on to some important global updates now. The entire establishment in Iran, which includes the president, the supreme leader, vowed revenge on Israel following Monday's airstrikes on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, which killed 7 people, including a key commander from the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the airstrikes on the World Central Kitchen a tragic case of forces unintentionally hitting innocent people. Remember, 7 workers of the non-profit organization, mostly foreign nationals, were killed in central Gaza while delivering food to civilians and were traveling in a deconflicted zone in 2 armored cars. And to take us through all the cues from the commodity space, Manisha Gupta joins us now. Manisha, good morning. What are you picking up this morning?
Well, as you were mentioning, Hormuz, the fears of a broader conflict in Middle East definitely seem to be supporting many of these tangible commodities. I'll start with gold, which has hit an all-time high now at $22.80 an ounce. The prices have gained up by 8% in the past month. And it's not just gold running up. You have silver prices now doing a fast catch-up on that. So 4% of gains in the overnight market is what silver did. We're trading at a 23-month highs for silver, above $26 an ounce. And we have seen nearly 10% of gains come in for silver as well in the past 1 month. Good going because of this Middle East concerns in crude oil prices also. There's a lot of bullishness coming in here. We're trading at a 5-month highs onto this one, $90 just in sight now. There are supply disruptions also happening in Russia. Mexico is talking about cutting its oil exports as well. And then there is OPEC and allies meeting to watch out today. The markets do anticipate that it's going to be unchanged in sense of production. But all of these factors clearly jittering the market, and we are looking at buying opportunities here too.
Thanks a lot, Manisha, for joining in this morning with all the cues from the commodities space. Brent now nearing $90 a barrel, so we'll keep an eye out on all of that. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Power Breakfast. Bazaar Morning Call is up next to set you up for midweek trading. From the entire team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching.